Welcome back to the MarketGeist Podcast. Today, we're talking about competitor research, or more specifically, the thing many companies call competitor research, even though it is often just a beautifully formatted collection of screenshots, logos, pricing tables, and quiet internal panic. You've seen it. Someone pulls together a deck. There are a few homepages. A feature comparison table appears. Someone circles a new launch from a rival and says, "We need this too." And suddenly the room is vibrating with urgency and very little understanding. That is not competitive research. That is corporate birdwatching. Interesting, maybe. Strategically useful, not necessarily. So in this episode, I want to talk about how to do competitive research without guesswork. Not in a shallow way, not in a paranoid way, and definitely not in a way that turns your roadmap into a tribute act for someone else's product team. Because the goal of competitor research is not to copy, it is to understand. To understand who else is solving the problem, how they are positioned, what customers likely see in them, where they are strong, where they are weak, and where you can win. That is the real job. Let's start with the first mistake teams make. They study competitors at the feature level only. They look at checkboxes. Does competitor A have this? Does competitor B have that? Are we missing this one shiny thing they just launched last Tuesday with a heroic LinkedIn post and suspiciously excited comments? Now, feature comparison has some value, but if that is your entire competitive analysis, you are missing most of the story. Because competitors do not win just because they have features. They win because they create a convincing package of value. That package includes positioning, audience focus, pricing, messaging, perceived credibility, onboarding, ecosystem fit, brand trust, and how well the product matches the customer's real-world workflow. So the first big mindset shift is this. Do not just research what competitors built. Research what customers believe about them. That is far more important. Because in markets, perception often moves faster than technical reality. Let's make this practical. If you want to understand a competitor properly, there are 5 layers you should study. The first is positioning. What do they claim to be? Not what you think they are. What do they say they are? What category do they place themselves in? What problems do they talk about most? What audience do they seem to care about? What words do they use repeatedly? What promise are they making? For example, 2 companies might have almost identical features, but one positions itself as fast and easy for startups, while the other positions itself as secure, scalable, and governance-friendly for enterprise teams. Same core mechanics, very different market role. That matters, because if you misunderstand a competitor's positioning, you may think you are fighting the same battle when you are actually chasing different customers with different priorities. So always ask, what story is this competitor telling the market about who they are and why they matter? The second layer is target audience. Who are they really speaking to? Again, not vaguely. Specifically, are they speaking to product managers, founders, analysts, enterprise buyers, developers, marketers, operations teams, procurement, executives? And just as important, who are they not speaking to? This is where a lot of opportunity hides. Because a competitor might look strong overall, but only because they are serving one segment really well. That often leaves room somewhere else. Maybe they are great for enterprise, but bloated for small teams. Maybe they are loved by technical users, but painful for non-technical ones. Maybe they are ideal for large companies, but too expensive or too complex for startups. Maybe they are powerful, but nobody would describe them as pleasant. That gives you strategic options. So a good competitor analysis always asks, who is this product actually built for, and where are they overserving or underserving the market? The third layer is strengths and weaknesses. This is where teams often become lazy. They write things like strong brand, good UI, many integrations, expensive, hard to use. That is not wrong, it is just not enough. You need to understand strengths and weaknesses in relation to customer value. A strength only matters if customers care about it. A weakness only matters if it creates friction that influences choice, adoption, retention, or trust. So instead of saying, competitor X has many features, ask, does that feature breadth help them win deals, or does it make the product feel complex? Instead of saying, competitor Y is premium priced, ask, does the premium price signal quality and trust, or does it push away their most natural audience? That is a better level of thinking, because strong competitor research is not a list. It is interpretation. The fourth layer is go-to-market behavior. This is where things get really interesting. Watch what competitors do publicly. What are they launching? What are they writing about? What content are they publishing? Which customer pains do they emphasize? What use cases are they pushing? What objections are they trying to overcome? Are they talking more about speed, compliance, AI, automation, cost reduction, accuracy, simplicity, or enterprise readiness? All of that tells you what battle they believe they are in. And often it also tells you what they are struggling with. A company that suddenly talks nonstop about ease of use may be fighting a complexity problem. A company pushing enterprise-grade trust may be trying to escape a lightweight tool reputation. A competitor talking constantly about AI may either be ahead of the curve or trying very hard not to look behind it. So look for patterns, not just features, not just announcements, patterns. Because patterns reveal strategy. The fifth layer is market gaps. This is the most useful part. After you understand positioning, audience, strengths, weaknesses, and go-to-market behavior, the next question is, where is there still room to win? Not where is there room to imitate. Where is there room to win? That may be a segment competitors ignore, a workflow they handle poorly, a simpler offer, a more focused use case, a better onboarding experience, stronger clarity in messaging, better pricing for a neglected audience, or better insight into a customer problem everyone talks around but nobody solves well. This is why competitor research should be opportunity-seeking, not fear-driven. If you only study competitors because you are afraid of them, the result is usually reactive strategy. You become a mirror, and mirrors do not lead markets. Now let's talk about a dangerous habit. A competitor launches a feature your team notices. Someone says, "We need this too." Maybe, but maybe not. Here's the question you should ask instead. Why did they build it, and what problem was it meant to solve for their audience? Because a feature in one product is not automatically a good feature in another product. Different customer bases, different maturity, different positioning, different expectations, different business models. If you copy without context, you import someone else's assumptions into your own roadmap. And that gets expensive very quickly. So instead of asking, should we build what they built? Ask, what signal does this launch give us about the market, the customer, or the strategy behind it? That is much smarter. Another mistake teams make is focusing only on direct competitors. But customers do not always compare you only to companies that look like you. Sometimes your biggest competitor is an internal team, a spreadsheet, an agency, a consultant, a manual process, a bundle of tools, or simple inaction. That matters. Because if a customer's real alternative is keep doing it in Excel, then your positioning needs to explain why change is worth it. If the alternative is hire an analyst, then your product has to look like leverage, speed, or cost advantage. If the alternative is use another product plus 2 workarounds, then your value may be simplicity and integration. So, competitive research should include the full set of alternatives customers might choose instead of you. Not just the logos you like putting on slides. So what does good competitive research actually look like in daily work? It should not be a giant one-time project that gets dusty immediately. It should be a living practice. That means track key competitors continuously, monitor messaging changes, watch pricing shifts, note new launches, study review patterns, compare segment focus, observe strategic moves over time, and connect those findings back to your product, positioning, and roadmap. This is exactly where teams need something more structured than random bookmarks and scattered screenshots. Because the value of competitor research is not in collecting observations, it is in turning them into usable intelligence. That is where MarketGeist fits in. MarketGeist helps teams move from fragmented competitor monitoring to a clearer, more strategic understanding of what is happening in the market. Instead of manually piecing everything together from dozens of sources, teams can track competitors more systematically, see patterns faster, and connect those insights to real business decisions. And that matters because speed alone is not an advantage. Fast misunderstanding is still misunderstanding. The real advantage is clarity. So here's a practical framework you can use this week. Pick your top 3 competitors. For each one, answer these 5 questions. How do they position themselves? Who are they really targeting? What are their biggest strengths from the customer's point of view? Where are they weak, confusing, expensive, slow, or overbuilt? And where is the gap between what they offer and what part of the market still needs? If you do that honestly, you will almost always learn something useful. Maybe you discover a weakness you can exploit. Maybe you realize your messaging is too generic. Maybe you notice a segment nobody is serving well. Maybe you stop being impressed by a competitor simply because they have more buttons. All of those are wins. So let's close with the big idea from this episode. Competitor research is not about copying what others do. It is about understanding the market well enough to choose your own strategy intelligently. That is the shift. From reaction to interpretation, from anxiety to clarity, from feature envy to strategic insight. And once you make that shift, competitor research becomes much more useful and much less dramatic. Which is nice. There is already enough drama in software. Thanks for listening to the MarketGeist Podcast. If this episode helped, share it with a product manager, founder, strategist, or BI lead who still thinks competitive analysis means exporting a pricing page into PowerPoint and calling it strategy. In the next episode, we'll talk about how BI teams can turn data into better business decisions, and how internal numbers become much more powerful when you pair them with external market context. See you next time.